today's episode, we're going to be talking about what happens or what you should consider before you change the name of your practice. Now, this is something that happens all the time. There's lots of different reasons to change the name of a practice. Maybe you just bought it. Maybe you went through an early stage. I talked to a doctor recently. He went through an early stage where he really struggled with the practice and he wasn't there probably as often as he should have been, and it kind of got out of hand. The reputation of the practice didn't go that great, and he had to rebrand it because he realized he messed up and he had to start over from a brand perspective under new ownership type stuff. Sometimes people realize that they named the practice after themselves and now they want to bring in associates, and it's hard to bring in associates when the practice is named after you. So we're going to be talking about all of those things today, so stay tuned for this one. So we had a doctor who recently reached out and he says, I'm considering a name change for my practice and would like some guidance on the process. So obviously this is a big move. Anytime you go to change something like this, it's a massive move and it's a lot of work. It's not cheap. You got to keep in mind the digital stuff from a branding standpoint, that does cost a lot of money to change, but it's relatively cheap compared to all the signage and everything inside your practice and those kind of things. That can get really, really expensive. So this is not something that you want to just do on a whim and just be like, yeah, I'm changing it. You really need to think through this, and I'm going to give you several steps. Now, I have one request. A lot of times I put like a PDF or something like this. Today, I'm just going to give you all the good stuff up front. I just ask you, if this is valuable to you, just leave a comment down below. It takes you no time at all, and it really, really helps me, and it tells me to create better content like this. If you don't leave a comment, then that tells me don't create more content like this. All right, so number one, first thing you want to think through is, who are you trying to attract to your practice? You should never start from the position of, do I like the brand of the practice? Because that might end you up in a weird place that may or may not work for you. So what you want to look at is, who am I trying to attract? Are you a Medicaid office? Are you a family office? Are you geared towards implants? I was recently having a conversation with a dentist, and they had a implant site, but they want to convert more to family dentistry. And I'm like, well, those are two different things. A mom doesn't look at a dental implant website and think, man, I want to bring my whole family there. So depending on how you name your practice will attract or scare people away. I'm working with another practice that has a lot of spa vibes to it, and they're like, but we want more families, we want more moms. Well, moms don't bring their kids typically to a spa, right? So if you want more family, then you need to drop the spa. If you want more moms and the cosmetic side of things, then you focus on the spa. So that's the first thing that you want to look at. Who are you trying to attract? That's the number one thing that you want to start with. There's no other question that you should start with first. That's the first thing you want to consider. The second thing you want to consider is your local area. Are you in a rural area? Are you in a big city? Are you in higher income, lower income? Your name should feel natural to those areas, and it shouldn't be out of place, right? So something that might be edgy and cool in LA might be super standoffish in Alabama, or vice versa. And it's not a matter of one being right and one being wrong. It's just thinking about the area that you're in. You want to appeal to that community, right? You don't want to repel that community. The next you want to look at is the income levels. Are you working in mostly blue-collared areas? Are you working in white-collar? Is it a mix? Are you near schools, tech companies, retirement communities? All of this should be considered before renaming your practice. Again, what would attract maybe a retired age patient definitely isn't going to attract a tech bro. What attracts a blue collar area isn't going to attract a white collar area. Okay? So you want to think through that and think about who you're trying to attract. And we're not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole when we're renaming our practice. If you're in a rural area and you really, really, really want to be like the really cool LA, Miami type dentist, that's fine, but it's going to be harder to attract volumes of patients doing that in a rural area. You might need to move, right? So you really want to think through that. Next, and this is a big one, this is the one that's going to tick everybody off. If you're considering renaming your practice, you really want to consider looking at SEO. So there's naming a practice so people remember it, and then there's naming a practice for the search engines. Now, can you name a practice something after that's really rememberable, like the people are going to remember it, and it ranks well in the search engines? Yes. But if you're buying a brand new URL and your URL is abcdental.com, and then you're buying another one that is, let's say, phoenixdentist.com. So you have ABC Dental and Phoenix Dental, and the practice is located in Phoenix. From an SEO standpoint, both of those are brand new websites, so they're going to be hard to rank. The Phoenix Dental website is way more valuable from an SEO standpoint. If you have the city name and dentist in the title, you're going to rank faster than a URL that doesn't have those things and is generic. It's just generic name, ABC Dental URL. Does that make sense? So it's really important that you understand that. Now, I've seen people really nerd out over this, and you can get a really generic name that's great for SEO, but horrible, horrible, horrible for patients remembering it and people remembering it. The name of my company is a great example of that. So we're SMC National. It doesn't say dental. It doesn't say marketing. Not great for an SEO purpose. Great for a branding, from a branding standpoint. Very easy to remember. SMC, right? Horrible from an SEO standpoint. And that doesn't mean I'm wrong or right. And then you look at like the hat I'm wearing, Dental Intelligence, great from an SEO standpoint. Also good from a branding standpoint as well, right? So you can have your cake and eat it too. So you got to think through that. And you say, well, how do I think through that? You got to work with somebody. You got to go on GoDaddy and see what URLs are available and play with the names, okay? Okay, number next, if you're going to change your practice name, you need to consider the future plans to sell your practice. I see this all the time where people will name their practice after themselves. They'll buy a practice, so it'll be ABC Dental. They buy it, then they change it to Gary Bird DDS. Nothing wrong with that, except if you're planning on selling it later, you're going to have a really hard time selling it without Gary Bird DDS there. And the next dentist that buys it, or whoever buys it, probably isn't going to be named Gary Bird. So you just created another whole set of obstacles that people are going to have to go through and rebrand with you as they sell the practice and as you transition out. So something to really think about there, okay? Are you planning on selling the practice? Now, if you're like, I'm going to sell someday, but it's going to be 30 years, then it doesn't matter, right? Here's another one. If you're planning on adding multiple associates or multiple locations, okay? So if I buy a practice or I start a bunch of practices and I name them Gary Bird DDS or Dr. Gary Bird is the name of the practice, and I have multiple locations, they're going to show up to the practice and want to meet with who? Who are they going to want to see? Gary Bird. It's literally the name on the sign. And so they're going to say, I want to meet with Gary Bird. And you have to then at that point tell them, sorry, no, you have to meet with Dr. Smith. And that's not a smooth transition. That is not a great patient experience. So you need to think through that. The same thing with a single location. Planning on adding associates, don't name the practice after yourself. Now, you can get fancy and cute. You could say Bird Family Dental. That sounds cool, right? And you don't really know for sure if it's Bird, my last name, Family Dental, or if it's like just a cool name, right? So that's okay. Or Bird Dental Group. Something like that. You can get fancy like that. So that's another thing to really keep in mind. Okay, number next, your existing Google reviews. Do you have strong Google reviews? So you want to make sure when you're changing the name that you can migrate over the Google reviews. That's really, really important. The other one is logo, website, and other branding. Okay, so logo, website, and other branding. So some logos look great on a logo, on a hat. Okay, like they'll have a round logo. And that looks amazing on a hat. But a round logo doesn't look great on a website. Why? Because our screens are square. So you actually want a rectangle logo on a website. You try to put a round logo on a website, typically doesn't look good. It's harder to make look good. So you want to think through that. That doesn't mean you can't make a square logo and a round logo and have multiple different options. Of course you can. You can do all kinds of things. But you want to think through that. That's something that you want to think through. So if you have a really long name, it's probably going to be better through a square logo too. And that's going to look better on websites and things like that. But it might not look as good on a sign. It might look cluttered on a sign. So then you have to use initials on signs and on your hats and your apparel, things like that. So you want to think through that. Not as important, but definitely on the list. And then lastly, you want to think about the emotional and rational value of the current name. Is your name already well known in the community or tied to a legacy? If so, you want to use that. You want to use that. And you might, in some cases, like if it's, as an example, if you buy a practice and it's super well known and it has a ton of new patients and it's Gary Bird DDS, and you buy the practice from Gary Bird and they have a ton of goodwill, and you're like, well, I don't want to have Gary Bird DDS because that's not my name, but they have a ton of goodwill in the community. Keep something of that name. Keep something from that name. Maybe you call it Bird Family Dental or Bird and Associate Family Dental or something like that, because why wouldn't you take that transfer? Now, the opposite is true as well. If someone has a horrible reputation, you have to change the name. We've all seen this before when you drive through a strip mall or somewhere where you have a unit that's had like 5 restaurants in a row and they've all failed and none of them were good. And you just kind of know the next one that goes in there is dead on arrival because you've already built it up in your brain that this is not a good restaurant spot. Like, no matter who goes in there. Now, can somebody turn it around? Absolutely. But we all know, we've seen that and we've thought about that before, and you don't want to take on bad reputation, but you do want to carry on the good reputation. So hopefully that is all helpful. Drop a comment down below if this is helpful to you. I'll see you guys next time.